Lieutenant, I know that you're a very hard-working officer, and I would like to offer you a plate of Mr. Parris's favorite health cookies and a glass of milk.
Well, thank you. I'm extremely fond of health cookies.
Welcome to episode 15 of the Columbo podcast, where we are both extremely fond of health cookies.
With Nutella on them, preferably.
As unhealthy as possible.
Oh yeah, and syrup, stuff like that. Anything that takes away the healthiness.
Good evening, Iain.
Good evening, Gerry.
How are things?
Not too bad. It's exciting. We've reached the end of season 2.
We are fairly motoring through.
Oh yes, on a weekly basis.
Do you think that? Do you feel that progress has been made and we're getting to the heart and the meat of the Columbo series?
Well, I used to talk every week about how this episode is different and that episode is different. We've now had a few, I think, that are kind of returning to that earlier theme. And I like it, so I'm hoping maybe we're going to continue in that vein.
I'm going to lay my cards on the table with regards to this episode right at the beginning.
Okay.
This, I think, is probably my second favourite episode out of the first 2 seasons.
Behind the murder by the book?
Yeah.
So the book ending.
But yes, first and last, yeah.
Of that little window.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly a good one. I think, personally, I preferred the Stitch and Crime to this one.
What we'll do, as we did with at the end of season 1, is we shall review the previous episodes of season 2 and look at the possible verdicts. Yeah,
so people can play along at home if they want. We're going on the basis that there were no confessions, and if there were, that the lawyers for the accused would be able to get them off from having made that confession. It would be inadmissible in court. We're also going to go on the basis of the primary murder only.
In most cases.
In most cases. But have a think anyway, everyone that gets murdered. And we'll have a wee chat about that in about an hour and a bit's time.
We've got quite a lot to get through this evening, Iain, so why don't you give us this week's summary?
Double Shock sees Columbo pitted against a pair of identical twins, Norman and Dexter Parris, as for the first time, the show conceals the killer's identity until the final act. After the death of the twins' uncle Clifford Parris in suspicious circumstances, the lieutenant must avoid incurring the wrath of Parris' housekeeper and unravel a nefarious plot between his nephews, his attorney and his bride-to-be, if the true culprit is to be identified. A stopwatch provides the vital clue, but can Columbo solve the case before time runs out?
Very good, Iain. Thank you for that concoction of yours.
No problem.
We start off with suspenseful music, and we see a man wearing gloves unwrapping an electric food mixer from some newspaper.
Yeah, you've got the music doesn't really go with the item.
We're expecting a bomb or a gun.
Something nefarious anyway, but no. We get early credits again.
Yeah, we do. Do you prefer the early credits? Does it make a difference to you?
It doesn't make any difference to me at all, but it does seem to have become the norm over the second half of season 2. Mm-hmm. So I would say that it seems that's the way it's going to be.
The man damages the cord of the mixer with a knife. Not sure why, really.
No, initially I thought he was maybe going to shorten the cord. He was going to fit it to a plug and so on, but no.
You thought this was perhaps a DIY show?
Well, I thought there might be a reason he needed a length of cord or something like that, but no.
He plugs the mixer into the mains, and he turns it on and drops it into a bucket of water.
Yes.
And we see lights flickering, and then there is a surge. It appears that he's trialling and testing something. Yeah,
it's not clear why or what he's doing, but he certainly is trying something out to see what's going on.
From there we move to a house gym.
Yeah.
And this is, again, typical. We've discussed this on most occasions. The setting, the backdrop of a lot of these crimes is a very wealthy, luxurious home.
Once again.
House. And once again, this is the case. We see 2 men, they're fencing. We see some nice point of view shots. And they're obviously having a friendly type of game.
Yeah, it's just a workout between 2 fencing buddies.
We then see the man who we saw in the basement with the mixer, and he arrives and he watches this pairing with a smile.
Yeah, we later learn his name is Dexter Paris.
It is. And the winner, or the person who's winning, he's quite obviously promoting a very healthy lifestyle. At one point, I think he shouts out, protein is what's required. They're hammering this point home that he's a sort of fitness fanatic with
there's been a few episodes where they've lacked subtlety a little bit. That might be one of those occasions.
After their game, they remove their masks and we see it's two men, perhaps in their 50s, 60s.
Somewhere in that. But then we had that problem last week of thinking folk were older than they actually were, so you don't want to commit too much. But
we do know that certainly one of the men is fairly senior because of the position that people take on his relationship with there's a contrast between the man. Well, what we learn in this scene is that one of the men who's fencing is the uncle of the guy we saw in the opening scene. And he's also
getting married the next
he's
day.
a bridegroom.
Yes. We also learn that the younger man is estranged from his own brother, who isn't there, and that the other fencer is an attorney called Mr. Hathaway.
He is. Dexter, after a bit of chat, he wishes his uncle good luck for his nuptials the next day. He leaves and the two men restart fencing again.
Yeah.
And like I say, this sort of emphasises the fact that the uncle is a sort of fitness fanatic. So
certainly a fencing fanatic, we learn at this point, but yeah.
Yeah. We get down to the kitchen of the house.
Yeah, it's not obvious initially, but it is the same house. He's just gone either upstairs or downstairs or through the hall, whatever it is. And there's a moment where he's making strawberry tarts.
Yeah, he removes this from the oven.
Yeah.
And, sorry, we learn that he's a TV chef.
Yes, I was going to say he references his own television show. And he's made these strawberry tarts the same way he would have on the television. And the lady seems pleased with them.
Yes.
But she's not pleased with everything.
No, well, she's a Mrs. Peck. That's who. She's the housekeeper. And she again reiterates the point that the uncle is a bit of a health nut and he would not approve of these strawberry tarts.
Yes, he would throw them in the bin, I think, immediately.
And apparently Mrs. Peck is meant to be visiting her sister that evening.
Right.
That doesn't actually happen.
No.
She gets waylaid.
We'll get to that.
In
the television. Yeah.
Now, I think what we establish in this scene is that Mrs. Peck, she's one of these battle axes with a soft centre, a heart of gold. So you have to get by the exterior, the outer shell. But once you get to know her, everyone seems to care for her and love her, and we find out that she's been in this household for a number of years.
Yeah, she's part of the furniture.
There's a little bit of exposition as Dexter reminds her that the uncle is getting married and the bride may well be taking him away from Mrs. Peck in the coming weeks. We've actually got a clip here.
It's quite a good one.
Come on, cheer up, will you? Don't you realize my uncle's girlfriend's going to pick him up tonight? Whisk him away to some teenage health resort and marital bliss and return and take all these dismal kitchen chores right away from you.
Well, I think it's disgusting, that's what I think. She's young enough to be his granddaughter, that snip. And if she thinks that she can take better care of that man than I've been taking for 33 years...
Come on, you feisty creature, you. Don't you know no one can do without you around here?
Oh, you're soft-soaping me.
I am not.
Oh, here, now, I'll thank you to dribble those crumbs on somebody else's floor.
I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you, you old phony grumpy. Have a nice vacation, huh? Great.
Yeah, I think that clip sort of backs up what I mentioned earlier. So he calls her a phony grump, or a phony grumpy. And there are people like that who like to be...
I think it's an affectionate term. He obviously knows her well.
Of course. We see him drive off. So Dexter leaves the house in a sports car.
And more importantly, she sees him drive off. She's at the window. She waves him off. At this point, I wondered if she was going to be our killer because of the music that we got, and she's the one that's displayed the animosity at that point. But then he just chucked a mixer in some water, so I quickly disabused myself of that notion.
We go back to the house in the hallway, and we see the uncle. He's saying goodbye to Hathaway, the attorney.
That's right.
And he tells Peck to go to her sister's.
Yeah.
As planned. And she seems quite reluctant to do this. And as I said, there's obviously this threat that the uncle will be remarrying, and she will be cast aside and no longer she'll be surplus to requirements. Yeah. So she feels quite vulnerable, I think. But the uncle, he tries to put her mind at rest and assures her that Lisa, the new wife, or the wife to be, has insisted that Mrs. Peck stays on to be the mistress of, what is it he said?
Mistress of the house.
Mistress of the house,
noted, yeah. So I don't know if she's completely assuaged by that, but she certainly is a bit happier.
Yeah. Her mind is put at ease a little anyway.
To a degree.
So the uncle retreats to his bathroom, and Peck locks up downstairs and switches on the burglar alarm, which is important.
It is. Part of her usual routine.
Yes. 7:30, is it, every night?
On the dot.
So we see Mrs. Peck in her quarters, and she's putting her jacket on as if about to leave for her sister's. But she gets distracted by a TV soap opera.
Yes, she's something catches her eye. She wants to catch that part of the plot, I think. Maybe one that she's been following.
It does look absolute nonsense, doesn't it?
Oh, drivel. I did wonder, is that an actual TV show, or
no.
Is that part of Columbo? They've filmed that as part of this episode of Columbo.
Yes. I was actually going to mention some of the trivia later on, but
okay.
As you've brought it up now, this is as good a time as any.
Sure.
The young doctor. Now, was there not some reference that he used to be a football player or a sportsman who's now a doctor and has to
I tuned out when this came on.
has to save some lives? I'm not expecting you to know this, Ian. I know you're, movies and TV of the 80s isn't really your thing.
No.
But that was the acting debut of an actor called Mark Singer.
Okay.
Now, Mark Singer first became known to me. He played the titular role in Beastmaster from the early 80s, I think 82, with Tanya Roberts.
Beastmaster.
He's a guy who was a sort of medieval supernatural movie where he could talk to the animals and fight evil forces and a bit of witchcraftery and all this sort of stuff. Actually quite enjoyable, and I remember as a kid there were several scenes that were quite sinister. And
it's not one I'm familiar with.
It's a reasonably good. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
But anyway, that was him. He was also in V, the sci-fi TV show.
Either.
No, and Dallas.
I've heard of that one.
His cousin is the now maybe termed infamous Bryan Singer.
Okay.
So Bryan Singer directed The Usual Suspects, all the X-Men movies.
Yes.
Superman Returns, House, the TV show.
Well, that's a fairly good CV there.
Very good resume. But there are issues in his personal life which we won't go into. That's why I termed him infamous at the moment. So we'll leave that there. Anyway, so that's who that doctor was. It was set up. It wasn't a soap opera.
It was filmed for this.
It was filmed for this, yeah.
There you go. So it was a show within a show.
Mm-hmm. So Mrs. Peck becomes enthralled in this, and she sits down with her jacket on, just probably tending to be for 2 or 3 minutes, and she gets drawn into this programme.
That's right. And meanwhile...
Yeah, we see a gloved man. He turns off the alarm to the accompaniment of some really sort of sinister, ominous music.
Yeah.
And then we see him apparently creep in the garden in his stocking soles, shoeless.
Yeah, they don't make it clear right now that what's going on, what the order of things here. The alarm being turned off and then being in the garden seemed a little bit weird, but it's not apparent why. Yeah,
so you were confused. So someone who hasn't seen this episode before, Ian, you were slightly unsure of what was going on?
Yes, it seemed a bit strange that you would turn off an alarm and then be outside.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously we find out later on what's actually happening, but it was, I presume, deliberately left a little bit vague.
Sure.
But it was a weird one.
We go to the bathroom, and we see the uncle in the bath, and he is surprised to see Dexter walk into the bathroom.
Yes, and he's brought his wedding gift.
He has. He seems to understand that he is in a fairly precarious situation. The look on his face, he's obviously confused as to why he's standing there while he's in the bath.
Yeah, he wouldn't have expected that, I don't think. It's not a normal behaviour.
So, we get a bit of a James Bond one-liner here. Dexter says, "You're going to get a real charge out of this." And he plugs in and drops the electric mixer into the bath. And again, we see this is one of the few times we actually see the victim die on camera.
Yep, well, We talked about that last week, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on that scene, Ian?
It was a bit of a cheesy line, but obviously we've not been let into the little trick that's going on here, so it does just seem what you anticipated when you saw the opening scene.
Mm-hmm. We go back down to Peck's quarters, and she's dismayed that the TV went out or goes off, but is relieved when it comes back on after a few moments have passed.
Yeah, well, she goes over to turn on the light, and the light comes on, so that's almost straight away.
Mm-hmm.
And then the telly comes back shortly thereafter, but it's purple.
Yeah, strangely purple. I'm not sure if that. I don't know if that actually would have happened.
I think that might be realistic with these sort of old cathode ray tubes. Yeah.
Okay. We're back out to the exterior of the house, and we see the gloved hand switch the alarm system back on.
Yes.
And then they leave with shoes on this time.
Yes.
Through the garden. And as they leave, we see a car arrive, a taxi.
A taxi arrives with the
bride-to-be, Lisa. And she gets out and asks the driver to wait for her. So she only intends being there for a few moments.
It seems like she and her fiancé are going back out again quickly.
Mm-hmm. So she rings the door and Mrs. Peck answers. Lisa is full of life.
She doesn't take Mrs. Peck's instructions to wait.
No, she kisses her on the cheek and she says she's going to pop up to see Clifford. That's the uncle.
Yeah.
Mrs. Peck's not best pleased, I don't think, with these modern ways where a female might burst into a gentleman's bathroom unannounced.
Yeah, well, I don't think she expects him to be in the bathroom at that point. She thinks he's getting dressed. But even then, she's concerned.
Shouldn't be doing that.
No, not before they're married.
No. Lisa runs up the stairs. She's got a giggle, and they really are playing up to her youthfulness and vitality, aren't they? Here
again, there's not a lot of subtlety here. It's a very sort of roughly drawn caricature, but
nicely
we get
done.
the message.
Yeah. And she thinks that he might be in the gym, but
he's not there.
He's not there, and she can't find him.
No, she thinks he might be in the bathroom.
The bathroom, yeah. She's not in the bathroom, and she checks. She ends up in the gym.
Yes, but she gets a bit of a shock.
A huge shock. She finds Clifford, the uncle, slumped over the exercise bike.
With the pedals still going.
Pedals, yeah, they're still going. And again, in a very childlike way, it takes her a few moments. Mrs. Peck has come up the stairs behind.
Yeah.
But Lisa appears to really not take it in. It's almost like, a child not comprehending
what's happened here.
Someone has actually died and is no longer with us. We see Mrs. Peck in the background. She obviously does understand and is in a great deal of shock. And I think there's a great shot here it's a POV shot. So Lisa drops down on her knees to look at him as he's slumped over, and we see his body move back and forth as the bike still rocks. It's quite fairly uncomfortable, I think, actually.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
We now go to the exterior of the house again.
Yep,
there's
our
a
heroes
transition. Yeah. And immediately the body is being removed. So we see the body in the ambulance, or being placed in the ambulance and being removed from the building. The question that I would have asked at that point is, Columbo hasn't arrived yet. So he's a senior cop. Would anyone else have had the authority to remove the body before Columbo has arrived, the homicide detective?
Well, the impression I got was that perhaps they didn't believe it was a homicide. He's just there because they've been hassled a little bit to check it out.
Yeah, but in that case then, if you are going to the trouble of saying, okay, we need to get homicide to check this out, you need to leave the body for homicide to
But maybe
review.
the decision was made at a later point.
Yeah, possibly.
Columbo looks like he's just been dragged out of his bed.
Very dishevelled. Now, we had this in 2 episodes ago.
In Stitching Crime.
Yeah, where he was a bit rough. But this is even worse, isn't it?
Yeah, but thankfully it doesn't last quite as long in this episode.
Yeah, so he's yawning and he's unshaven, his hair's a mess.
Hard to tell if his hair's a mess, but yeah.
Here's a question. I didn't follow the timeline in this. So, Mrs. Peck is watching a soap opera. So we're assuming that's maybe, 8 o'clock, round about that sort of evening, early evening.
Well, she was going out, so maybe even slightly earlier.
Yeah. And then Lisa arrives. And when Lisa arrives, there's nothing that suggests that this is 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Mrs. Peck doesn't say, what are you doing at this time?
No.
So, again, evening, early
Well, we
evening.
know that the alarm was originally set at 7:30, so it's after that.
Yeah. But there's nothing to suggest this is now 1, 2...
Midnight or
Mrs.
anything.
Peck's still awake.
Yeah, no, so why is Columbo so tired?
That's my question. So they find the body, they immediately call the cops who come there. Let's even give it an hour or two. Let's say two hours before Columbo arrives from when it happened.
It's going to be maybe pushing midnight at the
Very latest.
very latest. So
Columbo looks and acts as if it's sort of 2, 3 in the morning.
it could be that he had an all-nighter the night before, though, or... No, not on the drink, working.
Oh, okay. I thought it might be bowling in Chile and a few beers.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Or maybe he was with his friend Harry from last week.
Harry, yeah. Maybe he's having some red wine. We'll get to that later, Ian.
Oh, okay. We'll get to red wine later. That sounds good.
We will. Next season, we certainly will.
In the studio.
Yeah. So we're back into the house, and Columbo enters with a lit cigar, and he's followed by a fellow cop. That's Detective Murray. Yeah.
Yep, he's got a stylish moustache that shows he's a cop.
And there's a nice exchange between Columbo and Murray, which describes or explains to Columbo the situation. We have a clip of that.
Who is she?
Victim's fiance. Supposed to be their wedding night.
Oh, isn't that all?
Yeah,
What did he die?
coronary.
What are we doing here?
West called us hysterical, said something about everybody's after the old fella's money and that he was too healthy to die like that. So,
What did you say, old fella?
yeah.
Boy, old fella has a lovely fiancée.
Oh, yes, old fella had a nice young fiancée. Old fella dropped dead of a heart attack.
You have my handkerchief?
No, she got it.
It's interesting. We've talked in previous weeks about the show being self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
I had a wee rant about it last week in the show.
Yeah.
But here you've got Columbo questioning why is homicide being called out.
Mhm.
We've asked that in the past on a couple of occasions.
Yes.
Why is homicide involved in what appears to be a regulation natural causes death?
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to see Columbo questioning it rather than jumping straight to the
Mhm.
there must have been a killing approach that he sometimes takes.
Yeah.
So that was quite interesting. I like that.
I liked the exchange, or I liked the relationship between Murray and Columbo.
I liked Murray as a character. I hope he was much better than the fellow that got assigned to Columbo in the
Yes.
Greenhouse Jungle episode.
Wilson, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that Murray had a great charisma about him. He was quite, I'd actually say quite, when you look at him, he's a sort of no-nonsense guy.
Yeah, and he was competent. He wasn't bumbling around wondering what to do.
Yeah. No, it definitely was. I'm not someone who thinks or would like to have seen Columbo with a regular partner, but I think that Murray on occasion could have been a good foil for him.
Certainly a valued colleague.
Murray was played, do you recognise Detective Murray? Do you know?
It's hard behind the moustache.
He was played by the fantastic Dabney Coleman.
Right.
Dabney Coleman he's been an actor for many decades. A lot of 80s stuff where I know him from. He has recently been playing the Commodore in Boardwalk Empire.
Right, I've not seen that one, but
Yeah.
it always looks good too.
High profile role there. He was born in 1932. He was one of only 2 actors who have played both a cop and the killer in Columbo.
There you go, unique qualification.
Well, not unique, there's 2 of them.
Okay. An almost unique qualification.
He was also in, have you seen War Games?
The Matthew Broderick movie, yes.
Okay, so he was in that. He was in Tootsie.
Global thermonuclear
Yeah,
warfare.
that's the one.
Yeah.
He was in Dragnet. He often played a sort of sleazy, rich character.
Okay.
Dragnet, the 80s movie with Tom Hanks and
Not seen
Dan
that one.
Aykroyd.
Right, okay, I've not seen that.
Yeah. Oh, it's got mixed reviews. I quite like
You'll like it then.
Yeah. I'm very much a 5.7 on IMDb.
That's your
that-
maximum.
That's my sweet spot. He was also in Domino, which we mentioned last week.
Interesting, the Keira Knightley movie about
Yes.
our previous killer's daughter.
Yes, so he was in that. He won a Golden Globe for Slap Maxwell, portraying Slap Maxwell in the Slap Maxwell story. Who
Okay.
was a sports writer, quite a famous one. I don't know too much about it.
I don't know anything about that one.
Yeah, yeah, I like Detective Murray. So anyway, where were we in?
Well, Columbo's about to go down to the gym and upset the apple cart slightly.
He is. The cop or a cop is showing Columbo how the body
where the body was found. He's
yeah.
mimicking it, yeah.
And Peck is giving a statement to Murray as Columbo struggles to keep his eyes open. He's falling asleep.
Yeah.
And then we have a quite fantastic scene here. I think I said at the start of this this podcast episode, Ian, that this was one of my favourite, or my second favourite episode so far. And the relationship between Mrs. Peck and Columbo is one of the reasons. Describe what happens here. This is his first introduction to this dynamic.
Well, Columbo's kind of on autopilot here. He's half asleep. He's doing his usual thing where he kind of half takes in what's being said to him. And he is smoking a cigar indoors as he does. And he needs to dunt the ash off. And he just does it in the middle of the room on the floor. And Mrs. Peck, the housekeeper, and a very proud housekeeper, notices that he's done this. And she is slightly irritated, I would say.
She's first can't believe it.
I would say incandescent with rage.
There are very few times when you can be incandescent, and it's only with rage that you can be, I think. Are you ever incandescent in any other circumstance? I've never heard it paired with any other.
I don't know.
Yeah, have you ever heard it being the word incandescent been paired with anything other than rage?
It's maybe become a cliche when it's attached to rage, and I should apologise for using it.
Don't do it again.
There we go.
So yeah, this is the first duelling that we have between both these characters. Duelling, get that, Ian? Fencing?
Yeah, that's witty. She says to him, or she asks him if he belongs in some kind of a pigsty and whether he does that in his own house.
Yeah.
And he's very sheepish.
He's very apologetic, but she's having none of it, and she screams for him to remove himself from the...
Well, she asks someone to get him removed, doesn't she? She says, get one of the other policemen to take him out.
Yeah.
And then she literally chases him out the door.
Now, again, I say this relationship is fantastic, and we see, or we have seen already in episodes of Columbo where they introduce a comedic subplot or element to it. It doesn't always work, and sometimes they overplay it. I think this episode does it perfectly. There is quite a lot of this, but I can't help the writing's so good, the performances are so good, that it just makes the episode for me, I think. Yeah,
I mean, quite often we pick the highlight of an episode to be Columbo's relationship with the killer.
Yeah.
And that's okay in this episode, it's pretty good. But his relationship with Mrs. Peck, I think, is the highlight. Yeah. She certainly steals the scenes that she's in.
She does. So, Columbo has to leave the gym, and he goes to the bathroom in order to sort of wake himself up, splash some water on his face.
I think we briefly see a shot of Dexter arriving before we go up to the bathroom in his car, and then we jump up to Columbo in the bathroom. Just by chance, he's not gone there to investigate. He needs to splash water on his face. But
what does he find out?
He dries his face in a towel and notices that on the rack opposite there are fewer towels.
Mm-hmm.
So he investigates in the sort of laundry hamper and finds a damp towel.
He does.
And then he finds a damp bar of soap.
And what is he able to determine from this?
Somebody's had a bath in the bathroom.
Yeah. Now that's the type of clue that makes Columbo the super cop that he is.
Oh yeah, a wet towel and a soap, meaning a bath, that is
perfectly normal.
Spectacular detective work.
Yeah, but to the average person it's perfectly normal.
Yeah, they would overlook it, and he makes the connection, or at least he is sufficiently unhappy about it that he starts thinking harder about the situation.
We go back down to the living room area, and we see Dexter giving a statement to the cop.
Yeah.
Saying that his Uncle Clifford was healthy when he left him earlier in the day. There was no signs of ill health or
he's very surprised
anything to come.
This.
The cop believes and Columbo appears, and Dexter notices Mrs. Peck's reluctance to engage with Columbo as he picks up in this icy sort of atmosphere. Columbo and Dexter introduce themselves to each other, and then Peck apologises for her overbearing manner, and Columbo in return offers his apology and explanation to Dexter about what happened with the cigar ash.
That's it.
And then he states that the whole house is spotless, so we can understand why Mrs. Peck would be upset.
Yep, he's working through his process here. He's leading in from this to having discovered the damp towel abandoned in the hamper.
Yes.
And this outrages Mrs. Peck.
It does. And what does she say?
Well, first of all, she appears to take it as a personal affront that he would even suggest something was out of place.
How many damp towels do you have in your laundry basket, Ian, or on the floor in the bathroom?
I don't have any right now because I did a towel wash this week.
A towel wash this week.
Yes. Anyway, she confirms that all the towels were clean and dry and hanging out at
Right.
4:30 that
Yep.
afternoon.
Well, 4 p.m. in fact.
Which is
She
4 p.m.,
emptied
okay.
she emptied the hamper at 4 p.m.
Yep, and that gives Columbo a thread to tug on.
Yeah,
so
well,
now he's
but
got something that doesn't fit.
Dexter, he can't understand what
No.
difference it makes. But he's then interrupted by Murray, who whispers that, and they have a discussion, and Columbo tells him that they should instigate an autopsy.
Yes, and Dexter's not happy about that.
Very upset. He states that he won't agree to this, he won't sign any paperwork or authorization.
And Murray basically says, it's not up to you, get lost.
See, that's why I like, Murray said he's no nonsense.
That's it. There's no playing around, no games.
Nope. He said, you'll do what you're told. Be quiet. We're the cops.
Yeah. The other bit of information we get here is that there was a barefooted footprint found.
And the alarm was also set for 7:30 p.m. as it is every night.
Well, we
as
knew
routine.
that. Yeah. Well, that gives us the time. So we
Yeah.
started putting it on earlier. Now we know the time.
Mhm.
But we find out that it was a flat-footed footprint.
No, we don't know at this scene. In this scene, Columbo tells Murray to go and check the windows and check for footprints. This is the point where Columbo asks this to be looked at.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I've also got a massive gap in my notes then.
Huge gap.
Just does nothing happen for the next 5 minutes?
Nope. We're back up to the gym.
Okay.
And Columbo is pondering, why Clifford would exercise just before he was due to leave to get married.
Okay.
And Dexter tells him that he had an insatiable appetite for life and health.
Which we've got from the non-subtle clues earlier on.
And at this point as well, Columbo and Dexter both have a little discussion and agree that Lisa was an extremely healthy individual herself.
Mm-hmm.
Columbo tells Dexter that he's bothered by the death, and he thinks that maybe it was not a heart attack and that he has something to show him in the bathroom.
Okay.
At this point, they go up to the bathroom again. The thing is with this episode, it all takes place in this house, really.
Yeah, it's all one long scene. I've actually got a note later on. Apart from the very first few seconds, you've got 27 minutes in this house, which I thought was perhaps the longest single scene that we've had so far.
Yeah.
Which is probably why I've missed out that section of my notes. Nothing really gets said. I didn't take anything of interest down. But yes, they go from there to the bathroom.
And Dexter again can't see the significance in Columbo establishing that Clifford took a bath after exercise.
Yeah, he says, congratulations, you've proved someone had a bath.
I like that line. And just then Murray and Mrs. Peck arrive, and Murray tells Columbo that the windows were okay, but that they found a footprint with no shoes and flat feet.
Yes, like I said earlier on. And Columbo tries to trick Dexter into showing him his feet, but Dexter's...
Now before that, you're missing another nice part here, Ian.
Okay.
So it's quite amusing. Columbo asks Peck to reconsider, or suggests that she might want to reconsider whether she was sure of what she'd said previously in terms of the alarm and all that type of stuff. And she doesn't have to say anything, but you can see the anger and the suggestion that she might not be, and Columbo sort of takes it back.
Shrinks away.
Yeah, okay, you are sure, you're sure. I won't.
Yeah.
So that was a nice thing.
Yes, but yes, the point was made about flat feet, and Dexter says, I like policemen who all have flat feet. You know, the trope about policemen.
Yes.
And Columbo says, it's not true. I have very fine arches. He's going to show off his arches. And his idea here is that you'll get Dexter to show off his feet and you'll prove, you've flat feet. But Dexter's just saying, no, look, I've got flat feet. You don't need to go through this.
Yeah. That sometimes does happen when Columbo...
we saw that last week
with
our killer. He didn't have any time for Columbo's games.
We also find out that Columbo admits that he knew that Dexter and his brother were due to inherit the $3 million estate.
Yeah.
And again, Columbo says he's still trying to work out this whole bath and exercise situation. And he can't understand why someone would exercise, even a health nut would exercise, have a bath, and then exercise again. And he asks Dexter if he can understand and explain that. And Dexter can't.
No.
He's at a loss for words. This is, suppose it's either he's at a loss for words, or he does the correct thing in this situation and doesn't try to fabricate an answer and just says, I don't know what she should do.
Yeah.
The doorbell goes and Norman appears. The brother.
Yes, the revelation that there's an identical twin. Well, we knew he was a brother, but this is the first time we see that they are.
And Columbo's
essentially
shocked,
identical.
to discover this, that they are twins. And Dexter explains to Norman that Columbo suspects foul play. And Norman says that he feels an autopsy would be a good idea. So we get the feeling that these brothers, we know they don't get on.
Yeah.
They're very antagonistic towards each other.
Yeah, there's no love lost, should we say.
So, yeah, when Norman suggests that an autopsy would be a good idea, he's obviously implying that Dexter perhaps would be a
Maybe
potential...
he's covering something, yeah. The first thought I obviously had was, they're played by the same actor, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Will we see them together? Do they have the facility to do that in 1973?
And we find, well, we get an answer to that, don't we?
We get an answer near the end of the episode. We do see them together, but only very briefly and in a very framed shot.
Mm-hmm.
So I suspect they could do it, but not with anything too elaborate.
With the suggestion that an autopsy might be a good idea, we have Dexter responding by telling Columbo that Norman also has flat feet.
Yeah.
So they are identical, very identical twins. And we see Columbo scratching his head in a great deal of bemusement and puzzlement.
Yeah, I mean, I think nowadays the difference between a flat foot and an arched foot wouldn't be a major giveaway. There'd be probably more detailed analysis that they can do.
Sure.
But obviously we remember back, I think it was Greenhouse Jungle, you had the issues with the size of footprints and the mould that they took, swelling, and it wasn't a very exact science at that point.
So as you rightly said, we see both these actors performing together later in the episode, and I think it's a great performance by Martin Landau,
right,
who played both Dexter and Norman Paris. How familiar are you with Martin Landau?
Well, not hugely familiar. Why don't you fill me in, Gerry?
Okay, so he's born in 1928 and he's still working to this day.
Okay.
I think he's got some works in pre-production or post-production that haven't even come out yet.
Okay. He must be about 87, coming on 87?
Well, yeah, he would be 1928, yeah. Probably most famous for playing Roland Hand in Mission Impossible for 76 episodes.
Okay.
I first came across him, or became aware of him, really, for Rounders in the 90s with Matt Damon and Ed Norton.
I've not seen it.
Yeah, good. Yeah, quite a good
it's
movie.
a movie, I've not seen it, there we go.
He won a Best Supporting Oscar in 1995 in Ed Wood, and he had 2 other nominations. Oscar nominations, actor. Yeah.
Were they all post?
Yes, they were.
Yes, it's not just existing Oscar nominees, but also future Oscar nominees that we're getting.
Columbo sets him on the road to fame and fortune and
Greatness,
stardom.
Yeah.
3 Golden Globe wins, countless other nominations over the years for...
A very decorated actor.
Very. 2 really interesting pieces of trivia I think you might enjoy.
Okay.
So the first one was that he, and this is related to what we've been discussing fairly recently, Martin Landau was the first choice of Gene Roddenberry to play Spock in Star Trek.
You can kind of see that, the look that he has.
I think you can.
I do think they made the right choice, but yeah.
They did make the right choice, obviously, but I think Martin Landau would have been he would have played it well. Yeah. He's got that sort of certain gravitas. He's quite mechanical. He's got that sort of deep voice as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see him in the role.
Definitely.
In 1955, there is a world famous Lee Strasberg, actor school or theatre school.
Okay.
Very exclusive, very hard to gain entry to. And in 55 there were 2,000 applicants for this.
It's a lot of applicants.
A lot. And only 2 people were selected.
They must be very talented people.
Mm-hmm. Steve McQueen and Martin Landau.
Again, good company to be in.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, a terrific actor, and I think his performance as both Dexter and Norman was, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Where are we now, Ian?
Well, we're about to see Landau establish Norman's character in a scene at the bank. We finally get out of this Clifford Paris's house and we're out to the bank.
Yeah, feels nice to
stretch our legs a wee bit and move on.
So we go to the bank where Norman works, and this is the key thing as well, isn't it? That it appears that to establish these different characters, Dexter is more creative. He doesn't wear a tie to work. He's the chef. Norman is the more straight-laced banker with the tie on. So that's the 2 different sort of character traits that
they're almost being set out as exact, like, mirror images, almost like opposites of one another, even though they are identical.
Mm-hmm.
And you wonder, I suppose, that might be a deliberate thing. If you've got an identical twin, you want to distinguish yourself from them, and you might be naturally inclined to go off in a different direction.
We're in the bank, and we have Norman. We see him counting a vast amount of money as part of his job, and Columbo is in awe of this. I think he's feeling a little bit faint at the sight of such an amount of cash. But Columbo confirms that it was not a normal heart attack that killed Clifford.
Yep, the initial autopsies revealed there was a shock involved, yeah. I don't think he means an electric shock at that point. I think he's just saying some kind of a shock. Yeah,
it could have been, bad news or...
Yeah.
Columbo is impressed by Norman's logic and his understanding that he may be a suspect.
Yeah, I've taken a note in this scene. I've said, do we even know which one of them killed him? Obviously, we're led to believe it was Dexter. Do we know it for sure? And then I concluded, yes, we do.
And then we've got a clip here of Norman explaining why this type of murder would not be.
It wouldn't make sense for him
to have done it. And if he was in such a way inclined, that wouldn't be the method he would use.
Okay.
You are a very logical man. Boy, are you logical.
Yes, but let me tell you what I am not. I'm neither flighty nor a dilettante, neither unreliable nor a low-life sponger who chases women and dreams of inheriting other people's wealth. Now that, I trust, will end any comparison between my brother and myself, and any conjecture as to who the logical suspect might be. Good day.
Mr. Paris, there's one other thing I wanted to talk to you about. It's rather personal.
Yes, I know. Because my uncle died before his marriage, I stand to inherit half of his estate. But as to that being any sort of motive, let me point out that I am wealthy in my own right, with neither wife nor darling kiddies to encumber me. And if in fact I were possessed of a criminal mind, I would find it much, much simpler to embezzle than to kill my uncle for it. Which is more than I could say for my brother. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have exactly 47 minutes to catch a plane to San Francisco.
And after that, Columbo appears very impressed by Norman's authority, his stature, his gravitas.
It's unusual for Columbo to be impressed by somebody's gravitas and stature.
Mm-hmm. Not that unusual.
Well, no, but he certainly doesn't seem to be someone who is influenced by that sort of thing. I suppose maybe he can respect it without being...
Yeah, but perhaps he wasn't. This might just be an act.
It could be.
So, but we learn that Norman has to catch a flight to
San Francisco.
Yeah,
a regular meeting.
Okay, so now we go to Lisa's.
Well, we see a pair of legs in the air, and it turns out to be a yoga position.
Yeah, I have to say, now we're not going to go all 70s here, Ian.
I'm not.
A 37-inch pair of legs.
Really?
Yeah, apparently.
Is that a well-known fact? Did you measure it?
Aye. With my tape up at the screen, working out the ratios, etc.
Where does that fit in your list of legs?
Right, we're going to stop that right here. As you say, we have a close-up on Lisa's long legs. She exercises on the balcony. She's upside down or whatever on her shoulders, and
yeah, it does seem to be some kind of yoga type thing.
Yeah, Columbo is very impressed, and he says he is very impressed.
He's not subtle.
He also says he doesn't mind waiting. He says that he enjoys watching. Now, later in this scene, Lisa tells him that she finds him, that she's making her uncomfortable.
Yeah, he makes her uncomfortable, and it's not a surprise.
Not a surprise when you are quite happy to lead a female exercising and admit that you enjoy it.
I think if he'd been told to say something really inappropriate, I don't think he could have come up with anything worse.
Especially when you're wearing a dirty raincoat.
Yeah, well, we'll gloss over that and we'll get to the substance of this scene. She is asked some questions about the nephews.
She is. Now, again, this is quite a caricature that she plays here. So she plays up to this sort of dippy, hippie...
Again, it's not subtle, is it?
No. And she gets a bit panicky. She tells Columbo that with regards to the nephews, that apparently Clifford just wanted them to love and understand each other.
Yeah, she says she's met Dexter a couple of times. She's never met Norman. She doesn't really know them, but that's what she can tell him.
she then does start to get quite agitated.
Yeah, she says to Columbo that he's making her feel uncomfortable. I'm not sure if she actually thinks that, or she just wants him out because she feels like she's being investigated.
Well, she asks him if she is a suspect, and this is quite important because that suspicion is played upon later in the episode. Columbo says that she's not a suspect because she didn't marry him and she had no motive. She then basically insists that Columbo leave.
Yeah, she's maybe a bit concerned because she knows about this will that's coming up shortly, where she does inherit regardless of being married or not.
I don't think that's why. I honestly don't think that's...
Possibly, though.
I don't think... Yeah, it's possible.
He's saying you have no motive and she knows that she does. That's
I
going to make her really
I don't
agitated.
think... Yeah, sure, but I don't, actually, that's possible, but I don't think that's how she's thinking. I honestly believe her that she's no interest in the money. Very naive, yeah. So we'll talk about the actress who played Lisa just now. It was
fairly well known.
Very well known, Julie Newmar, born in 1933, best known for her portrayal of Catwoman for 13 episodes in the 60s.
Yep.
As I said, very well known for her very long 37-inch legs.
In your household, anyway.
My household. However, more than matched by her IQ of 135. She's the opposite of the character she's playing just now. She's certainly not ditzy in any way. A successful businesswoman. She won a Tony Award in 1959. And I thought it was quite fun. In 2004, she accepted Halle Berry's Razzie for her portrayal of Catwoman.
Appalling Catwoman movie.
Yeah, so Julie Newmar accepted the Razzie on her behalf.
That shows that she's a good sport.
Mm-hmm.
Although perhaps that particular movie cast a favourable light in her own performance.
Oh, well, I think she'd nothing to lose there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting woman, still going strong and beloved by many people over the generations.
How would you say her Catwoman compares to Anne Hathaway's in the more recent movies?
Different times, aren't they? Both are extremely enjoyable interpretations of the cartoon character.
I would agree.
Okay, so Columbo leaves her apartment and we go to a TV studio.
Yep, instant reminder of season 1, episode 4, suitable for framing.
Yes, well, no, we've had quite a few set around.
We also
TVs.
had Requiem for...
Yes. We've had more than...
Star.
Yep, and there was another one. What else? Well, the TV sort of set up in Etude and Black.
Yeah, but I think it was suitable for framing was one that was really brought to mind because I think Dexter's role here is similar to the role that we saw in that one. It was a presenter of a TV show.
Okay.
It's not a drama or anything like that.
So Dexter's doing his show. Did you catch what it was called?
I think he even said at the start, I can't remember off the top of my head.
The Pleasures of Paris.
Right.
It's in front of a live TV audience, including Columbo.
Yeah, he's got an aisle seat.
He has. And he asks Columbo to come up and help him.
He essentially forces Columbo to come up and help him. He asks for volunteers. And
we've seen this before where the murderer takes great pleasure in putting Columbo in positions where he's not comfortable.
Yeah, it takes him out of his comfort zone, yeah.
So, for example, in Dead Weight, we had him feeling seasick on the high seas, etc.
Yeah.
So,
and this seems a little bit bizarre, but Columbo seems to kind of get into it.
Well, this is
enjoy himself.
Yeah, I mean, this is an ad-libbed scene.
Right. Columbo doesn't say much other than
yeah. He smiles and he laughs.
It doesn't say much for Peter Falk's ad-lib skill.
No, he seems to enjoy it. No, I think not. To be fair, the
that's
bit
a
where
characterisation.
they're passing the eggs and that sort of interplay was all ad-libbed, and I think it's two actors working well together. I did enjoy this scene.
Okay, yeah, it works well. I like this scene.
Yeah, because it didn't really drive the plot forward.
No, it was a bit unusual. I don't know why Columbo was there, and I don't know why he got Columbo on the stage, but after the show's finished, we get a bit of exposition.
Yeah, and before that, but Columbo's still worried about how he seems... Columbo's not one for the ego or his appearance, but he did appear to be quite worried about how he came across.
Yeah, because his wife watches the show.
And he forgot to say hello.
Yes.
And it's a trope, isn't it? So he mentions his wife there. She's a big fan of the show. But Dexter wants to know what is on his mind, why he's there.
Yeah, this is where we get the information that they know the death was caused by an electric shock.
Mm-hmm. And then Columbo,
murder.
Columbo, not too subtly, asks for a recommendation on an electric appliance or mixer.
And again he gets called on it, and Dexter's got the mixers that Columbo knows he's ordered right there on set.
Yes. And so Columbo says it was murder and that someone may have dropped an electrical appliance into the bath.
Yep.
Now this is something we've not established at this point, that he was murdered in the bath. All we know was that he had a bath, but this is quite a leap by Columbo, I think.
Well, he knows the guy was in the bath.
Mm-hmm. That's all we know.
And he knows that he was electrocuted.
But you don't have to be in water to be electrocuted.
No, that's true. But I think I don't think Columbo's saying this is what happened, he's just saying this was what might have happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he makes the point that Norman doesn't have a motive, but that is not Dexter's thinking on it.
Yeah. So, Dexter is he understands the implication of what Columbo's saying and gets quite angry.
Yeah.
And Columbo tells him that he knows that he'd ordered 2 new mixers recently. And Dexter's quite indignant about this, and he produces them.
Yeah, I was just saying he's got the one set under the desk, so he shows Columbo.
But that doesn't disprove anything.
No.
So he's bought 2 new ones, but he must have had older ones.
Yeah.
So he just produced the 2 he ordered. He's been using mixers.
Yeah, but why mixers? We don't know that the murder weapon was a mixer. Columbo doesn't know it was a mixer.
Exactly.
He's only brought them up because he knows that Dexter bought 2.
Mm-hmm.
And now Dexter's saying, well, here's the 2 that I bought. So he's kind of covering his plot there.
So then Dexter claims that his brother is behind this, putting these thoughts into Columbo's head, I think, doesn't he?
Yeah, there's a good exchange here where Columbo's explaining how he doesn't think Norman's got a motive, but Dexter says he does have a motive, and I'll show you. Did he tell you he was flying to San Francisco?
Now, I loved this bit here, because what happens is we have Martin Landau acting as Dexter,
doing an impression of Martin Landau playing Norman.
Yes. Yeah. So an actor doing an impression of someone doing an impression of him. Yeah. So I thought it was very skillful and very nicely done.
Yeah, and it worked well. It was good.
Mm-hmm. Dexter wants to know if Columbo also suspects Norman, the brother. And Columbo says that not really, because he had no financial motive for this.
Yeah, Dexter's saying, well, that's not true.
No. And he basically grabs him and says, you get time, we're going to, apparently, San Francisco.
You see the plane.
Yeah, but they're not going to San Francisco.
No.
Where are they going?
Columbo has decided to take him for a lad's weekend in Vegas.
The Hangover.
Can you imagine?
Columbo wakes up with a tattoo, tooth missing.
And a tiger in his bedroom.
3 dead hookers.
That episode's in season 4, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. So, we are in a Vegas casino.
Yes, and Norman's there losing money.
Just before that, we see Vegas from above, and we see the flight landing, and there was nice music. I like the soundtrack at this point, just incidental music. It was enjoyable. So Dexter shows Columbo that Norman is playing craps, and basically implies that he has a gambling problem.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about the music, you just mentioned the music. I got an impression during this episode that some of it was reused from earlier episodes, but I couldn't place it exactly. Some of the incidental music seemed familiar. Yeah,
maybe I'll have been. I'm not sure myself. Who knows?
Anyway, yeah. As well as seeing him playing craps, they then go and check at the cash desk. Dexter then pretends to be Norman.
And this is a bit because Columbo allows this to happen. I'm not sure if that's strictly within police guidelines to be aiding and abetting someone, impersonating someone to get financial, personal, private, confidential information.
I'm not sure, but I think Columbo just wants to find out what's going on here.
Yeah. So we find out that yes, Norman is actually $37,500 in debt.
Yeah.
And Columbo and Dexter then join Norman at the craps table. And Norman seems quite embarrassed.
He's obviously faking that, but yes.
Yes. And then the brothers appear to have a little bet against each other. I'm not sure what's going on. But
it doesn't really resolve.
I think it's just to highlight the dislike and antagonism.
This animosity between them. But again, you don't see them in the same shot.
No. So we're back to the Clifford home. And Hathaway and others are assessing the value of Clifford's assets as Columbo looks on. So they're valuing the estate.
Yeah, they are.
And Columbo has a cigar in his mouth, and you're thinking, why are you doing this?
Yeah,
you know what happened the last time? You don't light up your cigar. Just leave it until you're finished here.
But Columbo's not even the first person to raise the ire of Mrs. Peck in this scene.
No. Hathaway says that. Oh, Hathaway first of all says he's Clifford's business manager as well as attorney.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Peck, as you rightly say, overhears Hathaway say that Dexter is useless and Norman's pompous.
She's not happy.
No, she takes that, but she doesn't say anything. But this obviously doesn't help Columbo later because she's put in a bad mood by this statement.
Yeah, just moments later, really.
And Hathaway asks Columbo which brother he suspects, and Columbo says that both have motives.
Yes, and Hathaway points out, however, that Dexter's the only one who was there that day, which he remembers from the fencing.
Yeah. So Hathaway asks if the police have spoken to Lisa, and Columbo says that they have, and she was very defensive.
Yeah.
And asks if she had any reason to protect the brothers.
Yeah, and Hathaway confirms that she didn't know them.
Nope. And Hathaway asks if he is a suspect himself.
Yeah, you've got a little brief moment where Columbo rules him out as a suspect completely.
And he's disappointed.
Yeah.
So I think he enjoyed I think he's an attorney, and perhaps he enjoys for a moment being on the other side of the law.
Yeah,
because he knows he's innocent and probably
can
prove it. Yeah. In fact, we know he can prove it because Columbo says no, that you were at some banquet.
Yes, it was the attorney's banquet or something.
And he's a little bit disappointed until Columbo then... I think Columbo knows
you could have had him killed, he says.
So I think Columbo's playing that little game with him.
Yeah, he says, you're way down the list.
Yep.
And then Columbo wanders off and he spots an ashtray to dump his cigar, and so he's being tidy this time.
Yeah, but it's not. It's a valuable antique, and Mrs. Peck is enraged and calls him a bum.
It's like some kind of a, banshee comes screaming across the room. It's like he spots the moment he does something, and
she storms off into the kitchen.
Yeah, and he is taken aback at first, but then he thinks about it for a minute and he wants to defend himself. Yeah,
because, so what happens is Peck has retreated to the kitchen and she's cleaning some antiques to take her mind off things, and Columbo appears and apologises. And he apologises for his initial impression that he made, and basically he says that, he's a clumsy, dishevelled, untidy person.
He's tried to fix it, but he can't.
Can't do anything about it, and really that it's in his nature, and it's unfair he's trying to do his job, trying to find out who potentially killed her friend and an employer.
Yep, and she's an unfair person if she keeps treating him this way.
Yeah. And she seems quite gracious about it. She thinks he leaves, just walks out, and she pauses a moment and she's quite gracious. She calls him back.
I think we heard at the start of the show.
Yeah, it's the milk and protein or health cookie that she offers as a olive branch.
Yeah.
And I think this is why this relationship sort of works and is nice. Because it's not just two people fighting and bickering with each other. There is this ebb and flow, and just about every scene where they have a fallout and they make up and fall out again. And it's,
I think she is very generous to forgive him just because he says he can't help being untidy.
Yeah, that's
doesn't really excuse, not a good excuse in any way.
No,
but they go and they have a nice chat, and it seems okay.
Amends seem to have been made here.
Yeah, and he gets the critical piece of information about the power cut, putting the TV off.
Yeah, so now we go to the living room.
Yeah.
And Peck is describing what happened that night in some detail.
I don't know if it's the living room, it's the room that her television's in. So
it's her quarters, yes.
Yeah.
And Columbo's drinking his milk at this point, listening to her describe the evening. But he asked for any little clue.
Yes, she hasn't mentioned the power cut, and then it occurs to her, and she gives him the exact time of it as well.
Yeah, 8:05, because she knew because she looked at the clock as something or other, yeah. She says it was off for 15-20 seconds and come back on. But the colour has never been the same. And
another classic Columbo moment.
Okay, so describe.
Columbo says he's taken a course in TV mechanics or something along that line, which seems unlikely.
Well, he doesn't want to pay the extortionate bills to the TV repairman.
So he says he can fix this purple colouring that's been there ever since the power cut. And he tries, and as soon as he touches it, the knob on the telly falls off. And all you see is her face contort in absolute fury. And she just screams, "Out!"
And Columbo doesn't. Okay, and he walks out, gives her the knob back.
He'll pay for it. It can be fixed. And he's away. Okay. But yes, he's undone all his good work from the previous scene.
So we're over to Norman's house, and Hathaway is telling Norman that.
I assume this was Hathaway's office. This is Norman's house.
Oh, but I don't know. To be honest, it could be the office or house.
Okay.
His study. But so Hathaway's there, and he's telling Norman that Clifford's will left the bulk of the estate to Lisa as a romantic gesture.
Yep.
Because he didn't want her, or he wanted to show his trust in her that
she wasn't marrying him for money.
Yeah. And he says that there's 2 copies of that he has 2 copies of the will, and that Lisa has the only other copy. Copy. And that
he thinks he can get it back.
Yeah, so he's obviously a very unscrupulous
Well, here he's
lawyer.
blackmailing both Dexter and Norman into tying themselves to him for future services in exchange for him basically disposing of this will and leaving them as the people who would inherit the estate.
Yeah. Beneficiaries. But he has to manage and take his
they're
cut.
going to sign a binding contract.
Mhm. We then go to Dexter's home or house or wherever it is.
The exact same thing.
Same proposition, and Dexter agrees to this as well.
Yeah.
And they sign this paperwork. And in front of Dexter, Hathaway, he calls Lisa, and he effectively scares her. Says that she's a prime suspect, and that an arrest of her is imminent.
Yeah, and he probably didn't need to scare her because she didn't want the money in the first place.
Yeah, he might just have been making sure.
Yeah. Over-egging it slightly. But anyway, she goes along.
Yeah, she says she's not interested in the money and agrees that Hathaway should come around and take the will.
Yeah, at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, 5 o'clock. So we go to Lisa's apartment.
Yeah, we fast forward to 5 o'clock, yeah.
Hathaway knocks on the door, but there's no answer, so he enters.
Yeah, it's clear there's been a disturbance
Yeah.
because things are a bit upended.
And we see the will lying on the table, so he picks that up. But you can hear sirens, police sirens in the background.
Yeah, and he sees that the patio doors are open.
So he looks out.
And she's gone over the balcony, she's on the ground. And
Right.
presumably dead.
And as he looks down, we see people who have gathered looking up and almost catch a glimpse, and he jumps back. And he realises the situation, or the gravity of the situation he's in here.
Yeah, and instead of taking the stairs, he tries to leave by the lift.
Just as a uniformed cop appears and he realises
The
game is up. Now, Hathaway was played by Tim O'Connor. He was born in 1927.
Yep.
Most famous for appearing in Buck Rogers.
Okay.
American shows like Peyton Place. But also some of my favourite childhood TV programmes.
Okay.
Murder, She Wrote, he was in that guest appearance. Knight Rider, The A-Team, and Father Dowling Investigates.
I think I've seen some of each of those, believe it or not.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Makes a change. So, yeah, he's a sort of good character actor who has been active for many decades.
There you go. Is he still active now?
He is.
That's good. We're going to be upsetting the person who commented in the last episode who said his favourite part of the episode is when we tell him that everybody's dead.
Yeah.
But nobody's died out of this episode.
Okay, that's one of the things I want to bring up, that considering the age of a lot of the actors in this,
Yeah.
I think there's only two of the main, or not including obviously Peter Falk, but we have Martin Landau, who played Norman and Dexter. He's still alive.
Yep, Julie Newmar's still alive.
Yes. Tim O'Connor, who we just discussed there, he's still alive.
I'm going to be shocked if Mrs. Peck's still alive.
Dabney Coleman playing Murray, he's still alive.
Yep.
Mrs. Peck is still alive, and she is 107.
Well, there you go. That is remarkable.
It is remarkable because I just made that up and it's not true. Unfortunately, Mrs. Peck, played by Jeanette Nolan.
Yeah.
She died in 1998, aged 86.
Okay.
She herself was a talented actress. 4 Emmy nominations. She was in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, the cartoon The Rescuers, and Fox and the Hound.
Yep.
I think her last movie was The Horse Whisperer.
Okay.
Was that Robert Redford and a young, who is the Lost in Translation?
Scarlett Johansson?
Yes. I think she was a young girl in Horse Whisperer.
I'm surprised that Lost in Translation is your Scarlett Johansson reference, but okay.
What did you think it would be? Lucy?
Could have been Lucy
Not seen
or the Avengers
Not seen
movies.
Not seen Avengers or Lucy.
Okay. Under the Skin?
Not seen it.
The one that's set in Glasgow?
Not seen it.
Okay. Oh well.
I've only saw Lost in Translation. That's why it's my go-to.
Girl with the woman with the pearl earring.
Not seen it.
And that. It's just you're not a big Scarlett Johansson fan.
I've just not saw much of her work.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, that was Jeanette Nolan. She was in actually 2 episodes of Columbo.
Okay.
This one and The Conspirators, which we'll get to. One interesting piece of trivia: she was the voice of Mother's screams in Psycho. So do you know how in Psycho he had Mother,
right?
And she would sometimes say Norman and all this type of stuff and scream. Well, that was her.
There you go.
Her husband also at the time he was in. I think he played the sheriff in Psycho as well. There we go.
Yep.
Where are we now? We're back to
Dexter's home.
Yeah. And Dexter's dismissing the claim by Hathaway to Columbo that he set him up.
Yes, because he was the other person that Hathaway knew was aware of this meeting and could have done something in advance.
So Hathaway must be down in the station squealing like a pig.
Yeah, and Dexter explains that for the first time in a long time he spoke to Norman on the phone, so Norman also knew this was happening.
But Columbo produces the agreed signed document, contract, for Hathaway to manage the estate.
That they've both signed, and Dexter defends that it's a perfectly normal relationship, perfectly standard business contract, because they weren't aware of anything saying that they wouldn't be inheriting.
Yes, and Columbo says that he thought that these the brothers did not talk, because that's the impression that were given, or he was given.
Yep. And
Dexter says that they spoke for the first time in years on the phone that day about this contract.
That's how Norman was aware of it.
And Dexter suggests that Norman may have been the killer of both the uncle and of Lisa. And Columbo asks him if he truly believes that, but he admits that he actually doesn't.
He's got another plot in mind that involves Hathaway and Lisa.
Yes, he says that he thinks that Hathaway and Lisa were in it together. That she killed Clifford and then tried to cross Hathaway, who then killed her.
Yeah, it's not very plausible.
At this point, Columbo has his sort of eureka moment and he realises that something is up and leaves very abruptly.
He does. The next time we see him, he's back at Clifford's house staging some form of reenactment.
Yes. So, we see Mrs. Peck in her quarters again. She's watching the television and the power goes off. And she gets quite angry, as she's wanting to do. And Columbo comes down the stairs with a stopwatch.
Yeah, she tries to stop him, he's not having it.
Nope. He's got some business in mind, he's timing something, and he ignores her diatribe.
Yeah, and it appears his reenactment works, and that's a very brief scene.
He enters the basement, changes a fuse, and stops the clock.
Yep.
And Peck's TV comes back on.
It's purple again.
So we're back out to the exterior of the house, and Columbo
is returning.
Yes,
you never see him leave, but he's suddenly returning moments later.
Yeah, and he notices a TV repair
van
outside. So what happens here?
So having seen this van, Columbo realises he needs to beg to be let back in, because the last time he was... I mean, obviously not the time that he was doing the reenactment, but before that he'd obviously upset Mrs. Peck. And then he came back and made her television purple again. So he begs to be let in. He swears in his mother's eyes.
He won't touch anything.
He won't damage anything. He won't break anything. So he gets in. She reluctantly allows him in, and they're divvying up
Dexter
the
belongings
of Clifford.
Yeah, I'll take this. You wouldn't know what the value of that is. Give me this, X, Y, and Z. Yeah.
You wouldn't know a Picasso if you saw it. I know what it's worth. I know this.
Yeah.
And you do see Dexter and Norman together in shot for, I think, certainly the first and possibly the only time in the episode. So it seems maybe to be something that's difficult to do.
Perhaps again a new technique.
Technically,
I think there's things as well that we need to... When we've discussed this before, different techniques in Columbo and things that we thought were trialling out new things. It's probably worth noting that there may have been techniques we're familiar with at the time, but in movies.
Yeah.
And
the budgets are different.
Budgets are different and just the setup's different.
Yeah, sure.
So I think sometimes we may assume that it's not new, but it might be new for TV.
Sure. They didn't seem to me at any point to use any body doubles or anything. When they weren't in this scene, they had the two faces, but other than that, you don't even see them on screen at the same time.
Oh.
But anyway, you do see them together. Norman's kind of static, so I presume he's been told to stay as still as possible.
Yeah.
And Dexter's kind of moving around at the other side of the shot.
But anyway, Columbo says he's come to make an arrest.
He thinks he's come to make an arrest.
That's it. And he invites him to the bathroom.
Yes, so they all trot up the stairs.
And we see Columbo lying in the bath, and he asks Norman to lift him out.
One of them, anyway. Was it Norman?
It was Norman, yeah.
Okay.
And he can't.
No.
And Dexter's laughing, obviously not appreciating the relevance here.
Yeah.
And then he starts to run the bath, and he plugs in the mixer. This is Columbo. And he drops it in, and the lights go out, as does the TV again.
Yeah. It's just been fixed literally minutes ago.
And then they follow him down to the basement again, to the fuse box.
Well, and he's doing his timing.
So he's timed this, and it's 67 seconds. And Dexter, again, quite sarcastically, claims that he did not know that. But Columbo claims that he did know that. So why is that important?
Because the time of the killing, the lights came back on after a far shorter period of time, which indicates there must have been an accomplice.
Yes, that's that exactly. He explains that he believes they acted together.
Yeah.
And Dexter remained in the house when we thought he'd left after kissing
and
Mrs.
Norman, playing the part of Dexter,
drove off
waving.
And wearing the same clothes.
Yes.
And then Columbo tells him that what nailed it was the phone calls. We have a clip which sums up this sort of gotcha
Covers
moment.
the whole thing.
I think you had on the same clothes as your brother, Mr. Paris. I think it was you that drove out and then came back later when your brother let you in.
Are you nuts? I resent defamation, Lieutenant.
You said you two never talked, except about that agreement. Well, I guess you had to say that in order to keep the guessing game going. But you know, that's what nailed you down. I called the telephone company. They told me that you two have talked maybe 20 times in the last 10 days.
You're saying they killed their uncle? These boys wouldn't do such a thing.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Peck, but I think this time they needed each other so much that they both did something very bad.
So Mrs. Peck does not want to believe that.
Obviously, she raised these boys, so she doesn't believe they're capable of it.
Yeah. And again, it's confirmed that Columbo says that Mrs. Peck's TV was only off for 15 seconds, so someone must have been in the basement to replace the fuse, and that one person was unable to lift the body from the bath on their own.
Yeah, so Norman essentially begins to confess, and Dexter doesn't want him to. He doesn't want him to shut up, and that's essentially at the end of the episode.
But then Murray comes in, again, being someone not to be messed with.
That's it.
He leads them out.
Yep.
And Columbo, as we've seen a few times,
he puts an arm around Mrs. Peck, doesn't he?
And helps her out, yeah.
Because she's just had the death of her employer, and now the two boys that she raised are the killers. That's a big shock for her.
Now, we found out that the will had been, the bulk of the estate, majority of it had been left to Lisa.
Yes.
And I think that what that implied was that perhaps he had left a small portion to Mrs. Peck, as you would expect.
Yeah.
I would like to think that Mrs. Peck will, because Lisa is now dead and the two brothers
they can't inherit.
That Mrs. Peck, as she was going to receive some of it, will perhaps...
I don't think that would happen.
No?
No. I don't know what the laws are in the United States or in California. In Scotland, if you die intestate without a beneficiary, it gets a bit tricky.
Yeah.
I would imagine that the state would claim most of it.
Okay. Well, I think we can assume that she got something anyway. She wouldn't have been
Hopefully
left
she was taken care of
for the rest of her life, yeah.
I'm not sure that she would adapt to the role of a millionaire, though. I don't think that fits her character. Maybe she'd
buy a new
cope.
TV.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's how it ends. What's your thoughts, Ian?
It's a strong finish to the season. I think certainly folk would be looking forward to a third season on the back of that episode.
Yeah. Like I say, yeah, I enjoyed it. One of my favourite episodes. Probably, I would suggest the top 10 of all time, I think.
Okay, that's quite impressive for an early one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you said, it bookends nicely with Murder by the Book, this section of Columbo's run.
Mm-hmm. I'm really looking forward to the next season or 2 or 3. I think Columbo really starts to come into its own, and
I've certainly had a few hints that it's going to pick up and be the show that we know and love, or that, well, not me, but you guys all know and love from here on out.
We've had glimpses and hints. There's been some weaker episodes as they establish or try to establish the character. I think we've tried things that maybe didn't work and they leave out and don't go down that route. We have to remember that unlike a modern show, where after 2 seasons you may have had 30, 40 episodes to sort of establish, this is still only
15,
15. So it's, a very small modern run.
Definitely.
So they're really only in today's terms after basically had 1 season to establish themselves.
Or half of one, yeah.
Yeah. I think they're doing well. I think we can certainly see where it's going and the strengths
promising.
of it.
They seem to be ironing out a few things, like we said at the top of the show. They're maybe getting their format more regular. Certainly they're far less varied from week to week on how the shows are structured. Yeah.
We still have to do the review of our...
Should we do our production notes quickly?
We've got some... I've covered most of it, to be honest, during the episode there. Production information. First broadcast on the 25th of March 1973 at the 74-minute length. The director was Robert Butler. He was born in 1927, so apparently he is still with us. He directed some episodes of Star Trek, Hill Street Blues, 2 Columbo episodes, including this one and Publish or Perish, Mission Impossible with Martin Landau, I Spy, which would have starred Robert Culp, and he has also directed a number of Batman 60s episodes. So
we can feel the threads weaving together, can't we?
We can. Strange, isn't it, or interesting that Batman and Star Trek and Columbo are intertwined.
Yeah, there's certainly a big sort of overlap between the shows.
The episode was written by Stephen Bochco and Jackson Gillis.
Okay.
So 2 heavyweights of the Columbo.
We talked about Gillis a little bit last week, and certainly I covered him in more depth in the show notes.
And it's interesting to know that Stephen Bochco was the creator of Hill Street Blues, which Robert Butler was involved. I think he directed the pilot, and I think that the pilot was so strong that it obviously they got the full sort of run out of it.
Yeah.
So very heavily involved with that and Bochco.
There you go.
Do we want to go on to...
We'll do the verdicts.
The verdicts. Let's. This is going to be quite tricky, and I think we might have a bit of... Well, I'm not sure. I'm not too sure what sort of light this will shed on Columbo's police procedure and work if we don't get a lot of convictions.
No,
let's
we'll see how we get on. I mean, again, reiterate the conditions are we're ignoring any confessions and we're assuming competent legal representation.
Okay.
Okay.
It shouldn't black.
My view is that he wouldn't be convicted. They can't place him at the scene of the murder. I don't think the flower's going to be enough.
I agree. Flower's not enough. Not guilty.
Not guilty. Greenhouse Jungle?
Guilty.
Yeah, I agree. I think the gun having been used in that greenhouse previously, I think it's too much. And I think ultimately they're going to find the money there as well.
Yes. The most crucial game.
It's not guilty. They don't have any evidence.
The evidence, apparently, the gotcha moment was that there was no
chime from the clock at the correct time.
There's a number of plausible explanations why that would not be there.
It's not proof of anything in any event.
Nope, the jury's throwing that out. In fact, it doesn't even get as far. I think the
I don't think it
DA
goes to trial. No.
says no, we don't have anything here.
No, and he then goes on to own the team and rule the world.
Huge success and wins 5 Super Bowls and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Yep. We go to Dagger of the Mind.
Controversial one.
Yeah. Okay, so the
UK justice system.
Well, yeah, that's a point. So anyway, we have 2 murders here, but the second one of Tanner, the butler, I don't ever think is even mentioned. Columbo doesn't bring this
we'll
up.
Ignore that one.
So we're talking about the initial murder.
Yes, Sir Roger.
Sir Roger Haversham.
Yes, I'm going to say not guilty. For a start, it wasn't a murder.
No, it would. Yes, if there was a conviction, it would have been manslaughter.
Perhaps, and also attempt to obstruct the course of justice. But I think Columbo planting the crucial evidence is going to go against them. Just
to remind people, yes, Columbo plants a peril in an umbrella by flicking it in there. I don't think that stands up at all.
No, I don't think they can possibly be convicted.
No, not guilty.
Not guilty.
Requiem for a Falling Star.
Well, we've got a body under the fountain, so it's going to be tricky to...
Okay, but we need to... Sure. So... The thing is that this was not the murder we saw in the episode.
No,
but this murder this body, the murder that she will be found guilty for because there's a body under her fountain.
It gives a motive for the other killing.
It does give a motive. So I think on both accounts she would be found, there'd be sufficient evidence to prove motive, and the fact that her character is, if she's found guilty for murder of the first one, she's obviously capable.
So I think she's not getting out of that one. She's going to be guilty. Perhaps not executed though, maybe just life imprisonment.
Yeah. A Stitch in Crime. Now we have 2 murders and an attempted murder.
Yes. So it's a tricky one. It's going to depend on, at the end we see this big reveal with Columbo pulling out the suture.
Yeah.
If he hasn't shown that or had that confirmed by a third party independently before he goes back into that office, that's not evidence of anything.
Not at all. So let's assume, because we didn't see it, so we can't make any assumptions that he
did show. So we're going to say not guilty in the attempted murder.
Yep.
And if he's not guilty in attempted murder, then the only explanation that makes sense for the other 2 killings is that Alexander killed Martin for drugs and then overdosed himself.
Yes. So, Mayfield walks.
Absolutely. Most dangerous match. I think we both agree on this one.
Last week, not guilty.
Where is the proof?
No proof.
Where is the proof? Show me the proof.
There is no proof. We discussed this last week, so we won't go over it too much, but Columbo insisted that all these clues showed that a deaf man must have been involved, but in fact, none of them do.
No.
The only one where a deafness would have been in any way relevant was the machine stopping, but no, I don't think there's enough.
Not buying it. I don't think he's getting convicted of that at all.
Not at all.
Then this week's episode, Double Shock, will they both be convicted?
I'm going for not guilty here.
I think I'm going to say guilty. I think it's a tricky one. It's only primarily circumstantial evidence here, but I'm going to say that there's enough of it to just about get them convicted.
I'm not as convinced. I don't think we've even proven that... all Columbo was able to do was show that someone had a bath. We do not know for a fact. He cannot prove that the electrocution happened in the bath. And if you can't show that, or can't prove that, then the whole point about needing two people to move the body doesn't stand up.
But like I said, you can build a story, and
I think
there's enough of a circumstantial case there.
Yeah, you can build around the fact that two people would have to be involved.
I think there would be a compelling narrative there for the jury.
Yeah, the whole fuse situation. I'll give you that one.
Yeah, and we'll see what people think in the comments on the blog and over on Twitter. So you can, like I say, every week you can get us on columbopodcast.com. There's show notes go up every week, and we have a great conversation with all the fans of Columbo in the comments there. You can get us on Twitter at Columbo Podcast. Please do keep rating, reviewing us on iTunes. It's a big help for us. Helps people find the show, and the more people that find the show, the bigger the community gets, the better the chat's going to be. Thank you to everyone who's done that already. What are we going to see next week? Next
week we're going to start season 3 with Lovely but Lethal.
Okay, that sounds like it might be a female killer.
Could be.
We'll find out next week.
I think that's us, Ian. Thank you again to everyone, and we shall see you all next week.
Cheerio.
You have been listening to the Columbo Podcast from Heard Yet Media.